Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode, another adventure. This week's episode is going to be a combination of about 2 weeks of work. And as always, I'll try to fill in some fun information and I'm going to get to see some beautiful airplanes as well. So buckle up, let's get ready, because as soon as I got on shift, the first airplane that I actually saw was already grounded, and it was because of a bird strike. Here we go. Yep, that's what usually happens. Bird versus airplane, airplane is usually going to win. This is also very dependent on where the bird hits and the size of the bird. And this one was very unusual because it hit the belly and then went directly into the TAT, the total air temperature sensor. Now, the TAT is an important piece of equipment. In combination with the pitot-static system, this unit provides air data calculations, anti-ice systems, engine performance, fuel management, and navigation and altitude control. But I don't want you to worry because the redundancy is always there because there's usually 2 TAT probes on airplanes. When something like this happens and one of them gets impacted by a bird or let's say gets clogged up, aircraft will automatically detect because there's lack of input from that particular sensor. The aircraft will downgrade itself from its CAT status. CAT meaning its category status. CAT status for airplanes is very important, especially with low visibility conditions. Okay, going back to the bird strike. Initially, you saw 2 points of impact, one at the belly and one into the TAT, but there's actually a third one right there. Hit the belly, managed to go through the TAT, and then managed to go bounce off the leading edge right there. I've done a video in the past about bird strikes and going into extreme detail of what we do. On this one, I'll just give you the quick rundown. Everything gets inspected. We will drop the gear doors, we will drop the flaps. Visual inspection of the whole aircraft, making sure something like this does not get missed. Once everything is inspected, we assess the damage and repair. Now, if the bird gets ingested into the engine, that's a whole set of different inspections. You would have to assess the damage to the blades and might even have to do a borescope. Now, for that particular aircraft, it doesn't really matter because it's grounded no matter what. That TAT probe needs to be changed. Aircraft needs to get taken off the gate, taken to the hangar. They're going to change out the TAT probe and they're going to do all the inspections over there because we cannot occupy the gate space like that. A spare aircraft will take its place. But an interesting thing about bird strikes, whatever is left of the bird, the remains, we actually have to collect that and send it to the Smithsonian laboratory specific for bird strikes. Now you ask yourself, why do you need that? First of all, they want to know the species of the bird, and they want to see the migration patterns. This can help airports to modify the habitats of that particular species so they don't run into airplanes in that particular area. Okay, enough about that. Let's keep on rolling. Our next aircraft is going to be a 777-200. I have a fun little fact for you. One good way to tell the difference between a 300 and a 200 is by the raked wingtips. The 200 doesn't have them. This one is scheduled to go out to Heathrow. As always, we got to perform the ETOPS check. We usually work in teams of 2 or 3 when it comes down to this type of check. We will subdivide the work. One person will service the engines and go upstairs. The other person can do the exterior walk around and cargo pits. Once the general inspections are done, we'll usually regroup within the flight deck and see if there's any kind of inbound or discrepancies that we have to address.
Welcome to our American Airlines flight.
Well, this is a healthy bird going off to Heathrow. Not much. Didn't even come in with the inbound items. Easy day. On to the next day. We've got a beautiful 321 pulling in right here, and pilots reported that the yellow hydraulic systems need to be serviced a bit. This is the hydraulic servicing panel on the Airbus 320 family. 319s, 320s, 321s, and the Neos, they all have the same panel. Here's a little bit of information about this panel and hydraulic systems on this particular aircraft. Airbus 321 and all the other 320 families have 3 hydraulic systems: yellow, blue, and green. All 3 systems are independent, they do not intermix. It is a 3000 PSI system. This is going to be your selector knob. It is a rotary knob. You can turn it to select the desired system that you want to service. Right now it's on yellow. It's going to represent itself by the needle on the gauge on the right. Once we know what system that we want to service, we will attach this hose right here that goes down to a bowser, which is full of hydraulic fluid, and we will begin to pump. While we pump, we monitor the gauge. Let's say you didn't have a bowser or any kind of equipment to pump up that fluid. It's okay. As long as you got a can of hydraulic fluid, you can use the aircraft's equipment. It comes included. Look up, right there. That's a hose. You will take that hose, unwind it, connect it to that same port. Then you're going to go grab the handle, which is in another panel. I'll show you that in a second. There it is. That's the handle that we're talking about. Unclip it, assemble it, and take it to the other side. There's a very particular attachment point where you put it on and you begin to pump. By the way, not only can you use the handle to pump hydraulic fluid, you can actually use the handle to open the cargo doors manually. You would attach it to that little sprocket. This is just in case the electric hydraulic pump is not working. Still have a capability to open and close the cargo pit door. Servicing fluid, you don't want to take it all the way to the top. You have to remember, fluid expansion. It gets hot, it's going to expand. So when you do this, make sure the cargo door is closed. It works off of yellow system. And just in case you were curious what these hydraulic systems operate on the aircraft, here you go. There's a nice list for you. Feel free to pause and look it over. Okay, if you're done there, come on, let's go take a look at a 747 taking off. Fall and winter is slowly upon us. One thing I very much appreciate are the amazing views that we get in these seasons. Now, obviously, I'm never going to see snow. I'm in Los Angeles, but you're going to get to see some incredible sunrise and sunsets. The rest of the evening was uneventful. Just a couple of more wide bodies, the 777-200 that you saw and this beautiful 300 that's rolling in. All we really had to do is just oil the engine, and this particular one, the night shift crew is going to take over because it went out to Sydney. Just getting to work right now and trying to find a parking spot, and what do I find? This little guy. What are you doing out here, little buddy? My God, so cute. Good morning, good morning. Look at that, it looks like they shut down gate 159 over there. They're probably repurposing it or redrawing lines. Pretty cool to see all the little blinkety blink lights. But Sunday morning, let's go as always, starting out with our plastic princess. Our usual Haneda flight. A little foggy this morning too. Let's go. Time for fun. I always like this shot. You're gonna see it again. I did it a couple of times in this video. As with most things within aviation, it's a lot of rinse and repeat. If any of you that have been watching my videos for this long, you guys know exactly where this airplane came from, and you know exactly where it's going back out. That's right, Tokyo. And as always, another ETOPS check. Engines turn or people swim. I'm just joking. Extended operation, or to be specific, extended twin engine operations. I need to stay off the dad jokes. It's always fun to see the buildup of condensation on our plastic princess. Remember, the fuselage and the wings are made of carbon fiber reinforced plastic. But it's not all composite. There are some metal structures, and that's where you're going to see most notably where the condensation builds up. Fun little fact about the 787 cargo door system, which I think I probably talked about before. The 787 has its own independent hydraulic system just for the cargo door. It's got its own pump, it's got its own reservoir, it is completely separate from the aircraft. Or I should say the aircraft primary hydraulic systems. I think they did this for weight reduction. Less plumbing means less weight. Pretty smart in my opinion. Now the 777, if you want to compare it, that one is an electric cargo door system. But the 777 doesn't really have weight problems. That thing is just a tank. Here we go, back in our Plastic Princess. We're just going through the parameters, just going through the wheel page. All the status looks normal. Looking good. Stig, explain every single button on the overhead of the 787. You asked for it. Here we go. Here's the info dump. Get ready. We're going to start at the bottom and then move our way up and down. First things first, the light panel. Now, a lot of this is self-explanatory, but component location is also important. Landing lights, runway turn-off lights, taxi lights, and strobes. These are the nose landing lights. The left and right wing landing lights are embedded into the root of the wing right there, which is also right next to the runway turnoff lights. Taxi lights are the smaller ones that are right next to the nose landing gear lights. The strobes are the blinking white lights. This is not to be confused with position lights. Position lights being the red, green, and white. Red on the left, green on the right, white on the tail. Up next, we got the wing lights. This is to illuminate the leading edge of the wing and the nacelle. Beacon is going to be the top and bottom red blinking light. The logo light is what's on the horizontal stabilizer, illuminating the vertical stabilizer. And as the name would suggest, illuminates the logo of the carrier. The little switch on the upper left corner, which says indication light test, that's an interesting one. It's got 3 settings: test, auto, and bright. When you put it to test mode, all the lights within the flight deck go to bright for 10 seconds, then dim for 20 seconds. When it's on auto, the computer, the CCR, Common Computing Resource Software, will basically auto adjust the lighting system. Then bright is bright. Okay, now shift your focus to the left side and look at this cluster. Overhead panel is the intensity of the background lighting. These are going to be your dome lights, captain and first officer. Now the storm light button is also another interesting one. It decreases the lighting, the ambient lighting, and the flight deck lighting. When pressed, it will turn all the annunciators to bright. And last but not least, the master bright. I think all of you can guess what it does. It is the master control. You want everything to go full bright, that's what you turn. You can adjust or just push the button that's in the center and everything will go bright. All the displays, all the buttons, everything. I think I'm just realizing now, I think I may have bitten off more than I can chew on this one. It's okay though, we're gonna keep on going. I miss a button here or there, let me know in the comments and I'll try to explain. Wiper. That is your windshield wipers. You have 3 settings: intermittent, low, and medium. Right below it is a button for the windshield washer fluid. Washer fluid can only be used on the ground when it's raining and on taxi speeds. They don't use that when they're flying. Wipers themselves also have a limitation. They could use it on taxi speeds, takeoff and landing, and at certain flight speed. If I remember correctly, I think it was around 230 knots. Anything beyond that, you're gonna break the motor. I'm not 100% sure on that one. I'll get back to you with that. Little button on the left that says L HUD bright. That's to adjust the brightness of your heads-up display. Be an airplane mechanic, they said. It'll be easy, they said. Yeah, right. It's okay, I still love it. Let's keep on moving. Okay, now let's get into the fun stuff. What we're looking at is the electrical panel. From top to bottom, IFE, passenger seats, your in-flight entertainment, passenger seat power. Cabin and utility will cut out majority of the non-essential power from the cabin, as well as the galleys. By the way, the airplane is smart enough to load shed all of this automatically if need be. Battery switch. Battery switch is connected to not only the main ship battery as well as the APU battery. The battery switch must be on in order for you to turn on the APU, which is the switch to its right. Once the APU is running, you can turn off the battery. It doesn't need it anymore. The APU battery will charge itself when the battery switch is engaged. 2 buttons below the battery switch are the APU generators. There are 2 of them on this APU. Why? Because why not? Redundancy is a fun thing. Also, the airplane is an incredible power hog and it always likes its own power. Below that, you're going to see 3 more buttons: left, right, external power, and an aft external power. Yes, that's right. The 787 has 3 external power ports. This is ground power. Now, you can get the airplane up and running with 1 external power port, but you're going to get the bare minimum. Everything else will be load shedded. It's always recommended to have 2 power ports, which are on the front of the aircraft, left-hand side. But you ask yourself, why do you need that 3rd power port, which is behind the left wing? Well, to answer that question, you're going to have to look at the buttons down below. As I mentioned before, this aircraft is an incredible power hog. Not only does its internal systems require a lot of power, but also the engines require a lot of power. Why? Because the engines start on electrical power. Each engine has 2 generators. To be more specific, electric generators called VFSGs, variable frequency starter generators. Get enough power to start those engines, you're going to need that 3rd power cart. I mean, you can do it with 2 power ports, but the airplane is going to be struggling. This is why it's recommended to have that 3rd power cart to get an engine running. Now, that being said, let's go back to the electrical panel because there's important things within the generator switches itself. You're going to see 8 switches right there. 4 of them are unguarded and 4 of them are guarded. Now, here's the difference. The top row, the 4 of them, 2 per side, are electrical disconnects for the generators. The bottom row is the guarded switches. Those are the physical disconnect. If I wanted to take a generator offline electrically and then re-engage it later on, I could do it with those top 4 row switches. On the bottom row, if I were physically to lift the guard and press one of those switches, that's it. That generator is dead. You can no longer re-engage it. You can only re-engage it on the ground. In flight, that is called a irreversible action. Okay, moving on. You know what the real fun part is? This is just a 787. I have 3 other current fleet types that live rent-free in my head, just like this. I'm not even mentioning the stuff that I'm not current on. Up next, the primary flight computer toggle switch. You got 2 options here: automatic and disconnect. In automatic, the airplane will be in its natural state. The computers will basically take care of everything. You hit that disconnect, you're going to go into direct mode. Remember, there's 3 modes: normal, secondary, and direct. Direct mode, you're flying that airplane with no augmentation. Airplane is no longer helping you. You have direct control. Above that, you have your IRS, your inertial reference system. I'm not going to go too deep on this one. It's basically to align the aircraft. Airplane knows where it is. Airplane knows where it's going. Now, the button on the left of the IRS knobs is the more interesting one: heading reference. Why is it interesting? Because as soon as you hit that button, the switch is a manual way to change between magnetic north and true north. When the heading reference switch is in a normal position, the AFF auto flight function uses magnetic north for its heading reference. When you press that button, it goes into true position. It uses the true north for heading reference. And by the way, when it's in normal mode, the airplane will actually do this on its own automatically. It will change between magnetic north and true north whenever the airplane is in a pole region. But the feature is still there if the pilot chooses to go into true north position. Don't ask me why, that's pilot stuff. I'm just a mechanic. Okay, moving on. Hang in there, we're almost done. No, I'm just joking. We're nowhere near being done. Cabin chime button, passenger sign, off, auto, on. I think that is very basic. You guys all know this. Let's go to the fun stuff. Hydraulics. The 787 is equipped with 7 hydraulic pumps, left and right electric pumps, 2 center electric pumps, 2 engine-driven hydraulic pumps, and everybody's favorite, the RAT, the ram air turbine. A nice little comparison to you between the 787 and the 777. The 777 has 9 hydraulic pumps, left and right electric hydraulic pumps, left and right engine-driven pumps, but the center system on the 777 is much more interesting. It has 2 electric hydraulic pumps and 2 air-driven pumps, and the RAT. Coming back to the 787, one of the most unique portions of the hydraulic system, that it runs on a 5,000 PSI system, unlike the conventional other aircraft that you will see that run on 3,000 PSI. And I know everybody wants to see the RAT. Here we go. This is what it looks like on the 787. Okay, we move on forward. Window heat. This one is very basic, not much to this. There are electrical elements embedded into the window panes. Remember, windows have multiple layers. In those layers, you have electrical wires. You have a primary and you have a backup system. Window frost is a thing at 41,000 feet. Visibility to pilots is very important, so it's not like they can pull over and scrape off some of that frost at that altitude. That's why you have a redundant system. Notice the backup system is for the left and right forward side. That's for the windshield. Primary side not only does the forward, but it also does the side windows. And another little fun fact, not only does window heat prevent icing on the windows, it also makes the windows a bit pliable. So in case, let's say, you do have a bird strike that hits the window, it's a bit more flexible and it will not shatter. The more you know. Moving on. From top to bottom, the battery test switch right there and the towing power. This is a very specific thing. You can tow that aircraft completely dead and only on battery power. Will energize only certain things such as your brakes. Because remember, the brakes are electric on the 787. If you press that test switch, it will give you an indication of high, medium, or low of the battery power. Right below the towing power switch, you're gonna see the CCR reset. This is commonly known on the 787 technician side as don't touch that button. CCR stands for Common Computing Resource. It's the brains of the operation for the 787 and directly connects to the CCS, the Common Core System. You push those buttons, you are going to kill the brains of that airplane. It's only meant as a last resort to reset the computer system. That's why it's a guarded switch. Same concept goes for the switch right below it. Passenger oxygen. Normal operation, if there was a massive decompression within the cabin, the oxygen mask will drop automatically. But let's say if there was an emergency and pilots needed to deploy the masks manually, you would press that guarded switch right there. It will deploy all of the masks within all of the cabin. You will get a lovely rubber jungle just like this. Up next, we're going to take a look at the little switch right next to the passenger oxygen, which is the service interphone. It's simply an option to turn it off or on. But to the left of it is the more important one, emergency lights. On the ground, we will have it to off. When the toggle switch is down, it goes into the arm position. In case there was a loss of power within the cabin or aircraft systems, all the emergency lights will automatically come on. Or pilots can physically put it into on position. Maintenance can also do this for testing purposes. Up next, this little knob that says ground test normal, data loading, and enable. This is strictly for maintenance. When you see me doing operational checks within this aircraft, sometimes it tells you to enable the system in order to perform the maintenance. The data loading / enable is to upload navigational data or any kind of software into the aircraft. To the right of it is the CVR, the cockpit voice recorder. Test or erase. I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. You can test it or you can erase the recording. There's a very interesting feature within that system. You cannot erase any kind of voice recording if the engines are running or the aircraft is in flight. You can only do this on the ground. The airplane is the biggest tattletale in the world. You can lie to me all you want, but the airplane will always tell me the truth. Down below that, you got the cargo fire arm, forward and aft cargo pit, as well as the fire handle for the APU. If there was a fire in the cargo, you're gonna get lots of bells and whistles. What you're gonna do is arm those bottles, lift up the guarded discharge switch, push, and you're gonna extinguish the fire. Left of that, you have the APU fire handle. Once again, if there's a fire in the APU, everything is gonna light up. What you're gonna do is pull that handle and then turn it to discharge the bottle. The push button on the side is to test the fire system. Down below this is the engine panel, and you're going to see left and right EEC mode switches, which are as well as guarded. Usually the EEC is in its normal mode. EEC standing for electric engine control. When you push these buttons, it's going to go from normal mode to alternate. You have to remember, everything's got to do with redundancy, and EECs have a backup. They run on dual channels. In normal operations, pilots will never have to touch the throttle quadrant. The computer will basically take care of everything, but in case something does go wrong, pilots can disengage the EECs and manually maneuver the thrust of the aircraft. Right down below that is the left and right start and normal switches. Now, if this was a conventional aircraft, these switches will be directly talking to the starter and the starter valve, which again, with a conventional aircraft, that would be a pneumatic system. With the 787, it's an electric start. So those switches don't talk to starter valves or starters themselves. They're now talking to the VFSGs, the variable frequency starter generators. Fuel system, let's go. This one's easy. From top to bottom, fuel jettison. Once again, guarded switches. Arm the system, you select how much fuel you want remaining, you lift up the guarded switches and you press the buttons and it dumps the fuel. Nobody likes an overweight landing. Down below that, you have your fuel pumps. Left, forward and aft, right, forward and aft, and 2 center pumps, left and right, as well as your cross-feed system. Unique feature of the 787 is the balance button down below. It's the only airplane that I know of that has this feature. You press that button, it will auto-balance all the fuel automatically. The reason that you see the aft left pump that is not illuminated because there's no pressure signal on it because the APU is running. It automatically turns that pump on no matter what. Another little fun fact for you, you don't need the left or right wing tank pumps to be running for the engines to run. If they are not running, the engines will automatically pull the fuel out of the wings via suction. Gravity is a beautiful thing. Back to icing. This is the anti-ice panel. You got one for the wings and you got one for the engines. Leading edges of the wings are an electric blanket. The anti-ice for the engines is the only pneumatic portion on the 787 aircraft. Let me be more specific. On the GENX, that is the only pneumatic option that it has. It will give bleed air to the anti-ice feature to the nose cowling, the leading edge, to prevent any kind of ice buildup. Otherwise, that engine does not push any kind of air into the aircraft system. The rest of the aircraft system is electric. Air conditioning wise, that's what I mean. Up next, you got your pressurization panel, and it's very simple. The 787 has two outflow valves, one forward, one aft. As long as it's set to auto, it will do it automatically. Pilots will never have to touch this. If you push those buttons, you're going into manual mode. That's why you have the switches, open and close. The outflow valves are the units that regulate the cabin pressure. If any of the systems malfunctions, pilots have the capability to go into a manual mode. Have to regulate the valves, open and close manually. But again, that will almost never happen. But in case it does happen, you have the feature to control it. And since we're on pressure, now let's go talk about the air conditioning system. The air conditioning system on the 787 is one of the most unique things about it. It does not run on any kind of bleed air. It runs on electricity. 787 has 4 CACs, cabin air compressors, electrically driven, but works much the same way as a conventional aircraft within its system. The only difference is it's not taking air from the engines or the APU. It's generating its own power via electricity. To be honest with you, it's kind of similar to your household AC unit. If you have managed to stick around this long, you're going to see a pattern within the switches because everything is set to auto or on. That's how the 787 functions. It is a very automated aircraft. Pack left, pack right, automatic. Trim air valves, automatic or on. Forward cooling equipment, recirculating fans, all in automatic. Actually, the airplane takes care of itself. Pilot input is very minimal, especially on an overhead panel. The most they will do is trim the temperature control from hot to cold. Not much input needed. I think I'm going to stop right there. I hope you guys enjoy that segment. Let's keep on moving. We got more to do. Good morning, everybody. Let's go. Starting the day out once again with that beautiful plastic princess. The usual. Coming in from Haneda, going right back out to Haneda. This thing's going in circles. All right, partner is oiling it. We're gonna do the walk around. It's gonna be a nice morning. And we're on completely other side of International. We're at 156 today. It gets cold up in altitude. Check this out. Frost all over this gear. Like I said before, rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. On this particular aircraft, the nose tires needed a little bit of servicing. They're just off by a few PSI, so that's what we did. There we go. All looking good. Perfect. Looking good. Clean bird. Did not come in with any inbound items. I like that. Of course, my favorite. Watched my beautiful 787 get pushed out, sat back and relaxed because I wanted to see the fruits of my labor. In the meantime, I enjoyed a little bit of airplane eye candy right here. We are back inside of an Airbus, and this time we're being towed, and we're being towed for a very specific reason. We're getting repositioned from the gate because this aircraft had an engine problem. We needed to perform a high power run. Well, let me rephrase that. We had to take it about to 35 to 50% power. We needed to make sure that the valves within the engine are performing properly. For a power run for any type of aircraft, you need to be strategically located on the airport, which is usually by a blast fence. A blast fence will deflect all the thrust upwards. Matter of fact, you can see one right there. It's painted orange and white. That is a blast fence onto your right side. It's an absolutely exhilarating feeling pushing the airplane to its limits. Trust me, when it's on the ground, it wants to go. All was successful, on to the next aircraft. Good morning. Let's go. First airplane of the day. Let's wake this thing up. Forgive me for not talking too much because I think you've heard enough of my voice throughout this whole video. I've been talking your ear off for everything. But what I'm doing here is simply getting the aircraft ready for dispatch. Long before the pilots show up, maintenance usually tries to get to the aircraft and get it to a ready state, making sure that all the parameters are reading correctly, there's no discrepancies, there's no faults. We try to get the aircraft aligned and get it ready. It makes life easier for the pilots. We go through the parameters, the settings, making sure everything is correct. I also had a little bit of time and I decided to tune into the ATIS. Check this out. Sounds like Stephen Hawking.
136 call. American 136 call, bro. Yeah, looks like there's a call sign and no readback. Caution. Runway incursions have occurred at taxiway Victor, Whiskey, and Yankee near runway 2 forward left. Pilots must hold short when instructed and read back all hold short clearances. Remain alert and exercise extreme caution. UAS operation have already below 300 FTE low Chevron of the Grundo until further notice. Advise on initial contact. You have Information Hotel. Los Angeles International Airport ATIPS Information Hotel, 12530.
A beautiful Airbus 321neo pulling up, and this one came in from a domestic flight, but it was going to go out to an ETOPS flight because it was going to Hawaii. And once again, as you guys have heard me say many times before, Hawaii flights requires an ETOPS check. One of the portions of the ETOPS check is checking tire pressures. And guess what? We ran into a really interesting problem. Well, not really interesting, but laborious problem, I should say. The number 1 tire was not in a good condition.
Well, that's not good. Yeah, that's below limits. We're changing tires. That's bad. It's a perfectly nice tire, too.
It was such a healthy tire too. It's unfortunate. It happens sometimes. The problem with this one was a leaky valve stem. Mind you, we still got to perform the ETOPS check. We are going to change a tire, but not just one tire. We're going to change both the number 1 and the number 2 tire. The reasoning behind this concept is because if one tire drops below a certain limit, now the number 2 tire, the bearings within the tire, are taking the stress. So that's a potential damage problem. That means we got to change both tires, or I should say both wheel assemblies on that same axle. Those are the rules. I got my crew chief involved. Everybody knows about it. They dispatched a couple of more mechanics towards me. Everybody's getting the equipment together. In the meantime, I am trying to get the rest of the ETOPS done as well. That means dropping the gear doors, checking the wheel well, checking all the emergency generators, going up and checking the APU compartment, making sure the oil is in nominal condition. Meanwhile, I'm doing the work on the outside. My partner is doing the work on the inside through the cabin and the flight deck. And at the same time, the coordinated event of getting all the parts, all the components, torque wrenches, everything is being performed by the other technicians that got called out for this job. Remember, we work as a team. That's how it works. We got pretty much almost done with all of the E-tops checked besides that tire, or both those tires. All safety devices installed, all the proper circuit breakers pulled, all confirmed within my coworkers, and now we begin to jack the airplane up. You've seen this a million times before on this channel. I've showed you how we change tires before, talked about it a million times. I'm not going to go into it. So just enjoy the visuals. One thing I will say is my absolute gratitude towards my coworkers. I love these people. I love them through and through. Man, oh man, I spend more time with them than I do with my family. The level of speed, the level of craftsmanship, the professionalism itself. My goodness, it speaks volumes. It's like a smooth oiled machine. There's no stopping. This aircraft had 2 hours of ground time. We performed a double tire change in less than that. And I'm talking about paperwork and all. This aircraft made it out on time. And the best part about this, everything was done exactly how it should be. There's no corners cut. Everything is done per safety manual procedures. It just takes the love of the job and a dedicated crew. We know what we work for. We work for you. We work for the flying passenger, the safety of the flying passenger. I've told you this before, many times before. We put our friends, we put our families on these airplanes. We want you to go out safe. We want you to be okay. You'll never see us. You will never know our name, but we are there. We are there. We are making sure that you are good to go. This is our work ethic. This is our pride. This is our pride within our job. Every single aircraft matters. Every single passenger matters. Just a reminder, I am not showing every single step of the job. There's a lot more that goes into this. That's why I said, just enjoy the visuals. This is the break. Number 1 tire or wheel assembly got changed. Now we move on to number 2.
So let me see you since you are a master mechanic.
Learn from the best. So
Right.
what else should I do?
You mean I learned from you?
I know nothing, bro.
Beautiful.
That is all I managed to capture on this one. But like I said, the airplane went out on time. He got brand new 2 shoes right there, properly inflated, and everything was good to go. And that was my Friday too. That's just the way it goes. But in any case, this is the end of the adventure. I hope you guys stuck around and enjoyed it all. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm going to leave you with the beautiful 777 pulling in. This was the last bird that I worked on for this week. And all we have to do is just oil it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here, watching, enjoying, learning, and contributing to everything to this channel and to the educational portion. I appreciate every single one of you. Aviation is a beautiful thing. We are a family. We are friends. We maintain this relationship because we have the love for the same thing. I bid you farewell. Stig, signing out. Later.